So I am proud to introduce to you the NC90 G2 and the NC-Pro15x. Nate, take us away.
Let's talk about the NC90 G2 first. For those of you that are not familiar with the naming convention for our cameras, I'll break that down really quickly. NC stands for network camera. That's going to be true for all of the entire series. 90, the next numbers, that stands for the field of view that camera can look at. So this is going to be a successor to the NC110, which had a 110-degree field of view. This is a 90-degree field of view. Both of these are for those smaller, wider rooms. And then G2 at the end, that's just stands for generation 2. This is the second generation of the NC cameras. Now, these cameras, you'll realize, obviously, that the 90 degree is a little bit smaller than the 110, but I think you'll realize that there are some new features in here that are more than going to make up for that slightly narrower field. One of them being that it has a 20-megapixel sensor on it, as opposed to the 8-megapixel sensor on the 110. That's a lot of pixels. In fact, it is legitimately way more pixels than you possibly need if you were using it the way that you're used to using the 110. But we're going to show you some really cool features on how this presents your visualization in a brand new way. Worth noting on the back of these, the NC90 G2 has the same sort of connection as all the other NC cameras. It's a single CAT connection. That means you're just running one Ethernet cable that is going to run power and bring the video into your network, and also send the control to the device. This has been our way of handling cameras since the onset. Rather than running long HDMI cables and running power as well, we put all of the network, put all the camera onto the network, and then you bring that network close to the device that's going to ingest the camera, and you make that final connection with a USB bridge. So that's the way we like to handle things, and that is still true for these as well. But what's different about them is very exciting.
Yeah, we're going to explain why we have those additional megapixels and why on that slide it said AI capabilities. We're going to show you how we're going to merge those two things. And for that, I'm going to bring our second guest up. His name is Jason Kelly. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
He's the Senior Product Marketing Manager for Q-SYS and this product. Take us through what we're doing with those additional pixels and combining that with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, let's talk the megapixels, right? So when thinking about how to improve the user experience with this next generation ePTZ, obviously optics are a big part of that. So by having a 20 megapixel image sensor, that allows us to collect more pixels, and it's going to maintain much better clarity when you ultimately zoom in and crop the faces in the room. So overall, you're just going to immediately notice like a lot better quality.
And then, and then when we pair AI in this situation, how are we improving the stationary wide shot that we would have gotten with the NC110?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you're already just working with a much better, because you're working with that bigger image sensor, it's still a much more clear picture, even when it's fully zoomed out, or at the 000 coordinate.
Yeah, but and again, like, what are we going to do with AI to frame these people up, take advantage of those extra pixels, and invoke the power of that AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So first up, we're actually going to talk about integrated active speaker framing. Now, for you folks who are already familiar with our Vision Suite solution, you may already know, or that term may be familiar to you, right? And it is a similar idea. However, with Vision Suite, you use the microphones in the room, you use multiple cameras around the room to get that true multi-camera automated experience. With active speaker framing on the NC90, it's a single camera. It has 8 onboard positional microphones that provide that audio data, and then it will automatically frame and or zoom in and frame the active talker. And it's all an out-of-box, right out-of-box experience, which is what really makes it special.
So we're looking at this. We shot a little bit of footage last week. There's a gentleman that's in the center here. You'll see that we're going to start wide, and the moment that this person starts talking, the AI goes to work to frame him up, and we'll see what happens as that ensues. Let's take a look.
Good morning. Another day, another ice cream flavor here at Chill Spoon Creamery. Let's talk about our newest flavor, Chai Cherry.
Okay, so from a demand planning side, we already have 3 separate co-packers ready to go for launch, and they're just waiting for the recipe. Mike, how's that going?
Well, we ran a small batch yesterday. It smelled amazing. It looked perfect. The color was great. But somebody used salt instead of sugar in the recipe.
For the last time, Mike, if our ingredient bottles were labeled like I asked for, I wouldn't have made that mistake.
On an unrelated note, I might have told some of the buyers already that the name of the ice cream is Chai Berry, not Chai Cherry. Is that going to be a... That's bad, huh? Okay. Wait, hey, how about this? What if we change the name of the ice cream to Chai Berry?
There's a lot of drama happening here, obviously. Jason, though, take us through the technology part and ignore the undercurrent that's happening in this scene here.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we started on that full frame when the first gentleman started talking. It zoomed in on him, pretty seamlessly, right? And as the next person started to talk, you see the camera establish proximity by framing both talkers, and then eventually, after a couple seconds of one person talking, it then zooms in on that person. And what's really cool about all this is the out-of-box experience. All you have to do is enable the feature, and the camera really does the work for you.
So if you're working with a room that has a shallower depth or a wider view, and/or the budget constraints might limit you to a single camera, you get a fairly cinematic option in this camera, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right, so that's the first view. Talk us through tile view.
Yeah, so tile view is this is a feature that's been requested by our customers, a lot of times in the past. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a multi-view composition of up to 9 framed shots. Here we're looking at 5 of our users, framed up nicely, and that's one option. Now, if you have more than 9 people in the room, it'll default to the room view. And now, if we compare this to what like a UC platform will do, it's much better to have this technology at the device itself, because we're working with a higher resolution image before cropping or zooming and cropping, whereas your UC platform is working with, at best, a 1080p stream. So you're already looking at a lower resolution stream that you're working with at that point.
I got it. One other option for this view.
Yeah, so we can also add room view. So if I want to see the full room along with up to 7 additional tiles, I can do that. And as mentioned, same idea here. More than 9 people come in the room, you're going to end up just automatically defaulting to room view. And similar to integrated active speaker framing, it's just a toggle.
Love it. Okay, that's the NC90 G2. Let's go to the NC-Pro15x, one of my personal favorites of this launch. This is going to get your collaboration spaces into these grander broadcast scenarios where the expectation of the visual and the optics need to go beyond what a typical ePTZ might be able to bring you in terms of visualization and control, right? So this brings us to another level.
Yeah, exactly. So think about spaces like an all-hands space or a training room where you may host live events. Maybe you have a company town hall, you have a launch event like this one, and you really just need to elevate that, that experience, right? And this camera helps bring you into that type of environment.
Love it. Okay, take us through the speeds and feeds, please.
Absolutely. Yeah, we mentioned that we worked with Canon on this camera. So this is a network PTZ camera built by Canon, designed for Q-SYS. It has all of the features that you'd expect of a professional quality camera. A 1-inch image sensor, which means you'll have much better image clarity because it lets more light in. It'll be better in low light situations, have more dynamic range. It offers a 15x optical zoom, 20x digital zoom, along with a 73-degree horizontal field of view. And all that with onboard Canon image processing as well.
Yeah, we're a Canon house here, and so the features within Q-SYS Designer are going to feel very similar when it comes to the f-stop and the ISO and all of the other things. Especially if you're in a Canon ecosystem, going to feel very familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of, if you're familiar with Canon, it does feature their dual pixel CMOS autofocus. It has a built-in neutral density filter. So that's going to make it a really good option if you're shooting in front of an LED wall. And finally, it does have an integrated tally light. So just like your an in-studio experience, when I need to know what camera I need to look at, it's integrated for you.
Speaking of in-studio usage, there's a couple of pieces on here that are vital if you're going to use this in a non-collaboration scenario. Take us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is PoE powered, which I think we may have mentioned earlier. It has optional HDMI, SDI, and NDI output, which can be output simultaneously. It is compatible with Q-SYS control. So you get your full native Q-SYS capabilities, but also compatible with Canon PTZ controllers for those operator-led environments. Couple other ports we didn't talk about, more specifically the XLR inputs and the mic inputs on this camera. That is not going to be active.
Yeah, those are disabled. But what's not disabled is that gen lock, which means, again, once you pair that with that neutral density filter, you get a more likely scenario where you're eliminating flicker on an LED wall scenario, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. We're done talking. Let's take a look at what these optics actually look like. We did, again, we're going to continue the saga with the ice cream gang. We're not going to listen to it because it's silly. What we will look at, though, and listen to is kind of our description of what you're seeing here, which is clarity in that image. There's a more richness in that color that you should be seeing, greater granularity in the control. Once we circle back to our main presenter, you're going to see that the sync between the camera refresh rate and the LED refresh rate are synced because we've got that gen lock. And what you're also seeing, important to note, is the switching that's happening. So all that switching is happening through automatic camera preset recall. And so when somebody speaks, the microphone is picking up that proximity data and switching. And I'll answer the question that's probably tearing through the Q&A. If and when this will link with Vision Suite? You want to take that one?
Yeah, so right now the plan for integration with Vision Suite for this camera and the NC90 is early next year. Not the next Q-SYS release, but the major release after that.
Got it. And when is the release for just regular integration with NC90 and NC-Pro15x?
Yeah, so both cameras will be compatible with Q-SYS Designer 10.1. That's going to be late November, early December. And then the shipping dates will be around that same time. So early December, both of these cameras will be available to ship.
Okay. One last thing. Again, this was a pre-recording, just to show that we're drinking our own Kool-Aid and we're using our own technology. The camera that has been our center camera this whole time, this whole broadcast, been hiding in plain view. Edgardo, if you could just spin around and reveal that, yeah, hi. These are the optics and the quality that you can expect from a live broadcast scenario. We're using that SDI out on that camera to go right into our switcher. And it really also speaks to the versatility of what Q-SYS can do in a hybrid scenario where you want the room to transition from a collaboration scenario to a live broadcast scenario with the flick of a button.